Hello everybody, it's Lexi from Fandom, and I'm back with another fanfic discussion, and this one is talking about the sequel to On the Nature of Daylight. This one is going to be about This Bit of Earth by Icarus. Where we left off with On the Nature of Daylight is that Hermione and Draco were separated, right where Bellatrix comes and tries to attack Hermione, and then to make it believable, Draco treats her basically like shit and just kind of leaves her there like she's not important, and then they separate and leave. These two fanfics were quite a ride. I enjoyed it so much. I am actually glad I'm not one of those people who was reading it as a whip, because I can't do that. Like, I'm not patient when it comes to that. I feel like it's kind of like with shows. It's I guess people see it as shows, these whips that people create. It's like you get a new chapter every week or however long. And with This Bit of Earth, I believe the author completed it May of this year, and it was like a long gap between, I guess, last time they updated it. So a lot of people had to wait for a long time. I'm glad I started reading these two fanfics after all that was done, because my patience is not the way I thought it was going to end. Well, actually, I didn't know how it was going to end. I really didn't. I thought I didn't know if it was going to be a happy ending. I didn't know if major characters were going to die. I had no idea where it was going. I didn't even know if they were going to end up together at the end. I assume so, but it was kind of like left up in the air. Like, I have no idea what's gonna happen. And I really liked how it ended. It ended, you know, it was a happy ever after. If you are worried about reading these two and worried about that aspect of it, know that you will be feeling complete at the end. No matter what way it goes when you're reading, and how it might seem like it's not gonna go a certain way, and it does. The sequel is all about Draco trying to find Hermione and where she is, and Hermione is currently with the Order trying to defeat Voldemort, but she is also trying to figure out where Draco is. But then she's also upset because the way things ended with them. She felt very betrayed by what happened, so she was just very confused, and she knew she still loved him, but she just felt like, how can he treat me this way and still be in love with me? In her mind, she, even though she knew that there was things that weren't necessarily great that were happening to her that he was doing, she still held on to that fact that she just loved him. And it was like, no matter what. This whole time she's having like issues, because now Harry knows, and Harry actually knew for a while but never said anything. And Ron is just completely just enraged with her loving a Death Eater, and he's just so stuck on her just being in love with him, and it doesn't make any sense, and he's just not happy. They end up like not even being friends throughout the process, and she's upset, but then she's like, you know what, I don't need this. I don't need you treating me this way. If I love somebody, then it shouldn't be your problem. Like, you shouldn't be making it a big deal. And Harry was more understanding and trying to figure out like what she sees that they're not seeing, but he didn't just write her off like, whatever, we're not friends anymore. He stuck by, and he was a good friend for her. Eventually, as Draco is trying to find Hermione, he does end up doing things that he necessarily didn't want to do, especially in book one. He was all about like being very scared in the first one, because that's when he was, you know, just becoming a Death Eater and set to do this task where he was supposed to murder the headmaster. So it was just very like not as intense as it gets in this one. And with this one, he just loves her so much that he's willing to do anything and everything to get her back. And whether that means murdering and capturing Muggleborns and taking them to Voldemort, he will do it, because all he cares about is Hermione and her well-being. Everything else can just go to hell at this point. That's how his mentality is. He is a lot more ruthless in this sequel than in the last. He decides to get a wolf pack together and hunt down these Muggleborns, and this is kind of like his cover to try and find Hermione, because obviously Hermione is a Muggleborn, so she would be included in that. So he sets out and gets his wolf pack to kind of like go after any Muggleborn, anything that they smell, anything, and that way, as that's happening, he's able to find Hermione in that way, which he eventually does end up finding her, because they find her in the woods with Harry. Just like in Half-Blood Prince, when she's camping out with Harry and Ron and stuff in the woods, and then, you know, Ron leaves, she's there with Harry. That's when she's captured. And at that point, when she's captured, she doesn't even have a wand, because she gave her wand to Harry, and because Harry didn't have his wand. So at that point, she went to go look for him when they were camping out, and she got out of their wards that she had. So that ended up making her very vulnerable and easy target. So when she was left those wards that were around their campsite, that's when they were able to find her, and she was tracked by one of the wolves. As she was being captured, last thing she saw was Draco coming towards her, I think in his Death Eater mask. She knew that it obviously was him. I think she saw his silver eyes. When she wakes up, she does wake up in Malfoy Manor, and when she's in Malfoy Manor, she notices that she is chained to his bed, and she's freaking out like, why do you have me chained to this bed? Like, and he's worried about her trying to escape, because even though she does love him, she wants to bring him with her to defeat Voldemort with the Order. But Draco is just not having it, because he knows if that happens, they're not gonna welcome him with open arms at all in the Order. They're going to use him as much as they can and then toss him aside and leave him for dead. They're not on his side, and he knows that. But she has hope. She's like, they're not bad. They're going to help you if you just help us. And he just refuses. So he holds her captive in his room for like months. She's very conflicted because, you know, she loves him, and she feels this intense attraction obviously towards him that she feels onto herself from him. She knows that he loves her, but he's selfish. Like, he wants her to himself. He knows the best way he can keep her safe is by keeping her hidden in his room where nobody can find her. Because if she's let out, then that's when Voldemort will find her. They're obviously trying to track all the Muggleborns, so she's a huge target. Best way he could keep her safe, keeping her in his room. So she resents that. She doesn't want that. He's going against her wishes, and she just gets completely pissed off at him. And he gets upset because he's like, how can you feel this way? You said you love me, things like that. The one thing that stood out for him is one thing she said was, I don't want somebody like you to love me. And that set him over the edge. He didn't do anything to hurt her, but he did things that just made her feel less than, honestly. She felt like a pet. And she didn't want to feel like she was a pet, because she is a human. She's her own person. She's going to make her own decisions. And he doesn't want that, because he doesn't agree with her decisions. So he just held her captive, and he knows it's wrong, but he thinks this is what's best for her. And she just needs to understand that in order for them to be with each other, this is how it needs to be. And she doesn't feel this way, and she just keeps fighting with him. She doesn't know what to do, because she wants what her way, he wants his way, and they're just not coming to a common ground at all. Finally, she does end up getting caught in his room, because his mom actually comes to try and look for him and sees the predicament that they're in. She gets completely pissed at Draco, because she's like, I raised you better than this. What are you doing holding this girl captive, chained up like this? What are you doing? And she automatically goes to, he's raping her and keeping her as a sex slave, basically. And she just, at that point, is like, I don't know who you are. Like, you're just written out of my life now. Like, no son of mine would ever do something like this. And this also sets him off. During this time, he has like a really bad drinking problem. I think he just drowns in his sorrows. He's gone through so much with his own parents expecting so much from him, and then him falling in love with somebody that in his brain he could never or shouldn't be falling in love with. He was brought up to just not be associating himself with Muggleborns, and he was always brought up to be with purebloods. And he has these feelings for her that he can't come to terms with, because he knows it's wrong, and like he tries to figure out there must be something in her bloodline. Like he tried different things to figure out. Like, I think he has this book of the Sacred 28, trying to see how he can line her up to like past maybe families that were magical families that were maybe pureblood at the beginning, and he ends up not finding anything. And he sees himself as like, he betrayed his family because he is in love with her and trying to make it work with her, and he's always just trying to please other people. He has no set direction like of what should be right, because he's just been like set in his ways for so long. Pulling him from that is really hard to kind of do that when he's kind of brainwashed in a way. Even though she does get to him like in the first book, and you know, he comes to terms with that he loves her, yes, but he just doesn't see that there's like real future with her, because nobody's gonna accept them. Like, their relationship is not gonna be accepted. So the only way he could still have her is by just keeping her there hidden, nobody finding out. And obviously that's not what she wants, because she wants, you know, to live her life, have Voldemort be destroyed, live her life where she can get married, she have kids. She has that choice, that option to still do that, and he's cut that off. he's basically said that to her, like, I can't, there's no future with you like that. It's not okay. We can't, it's just not acceptable. No matter how much we might want it, it's not acceptable. She doesn't want that. She doesn't want to be his sex slave just locked up in his room. So they just had these problems, and his mom ends up leaving when she sees that situation because she's just done. And she doesn't realize who she was. Like, she didn't realize that was Hermione. She just saw that there was a girl just all kind of lacy dress, or little, you know, little nighty dress, and just, it just looked like it didn't look like a good picture. Like, it looked like it was something going on. Nothing ends up happening from that, but she does end up getting caught and stuff starts happening. Lucius actually comes to see Draco, and he comes to his room and he finds Hermione there in his room. And not right away, it's like he comes in there in his study. So like Draco has like a study and then his room connected by like a door or whatever. When Draco was with Hermione in the bedroom, they heard knocking at the door, at his study door. So then he left Hermione, was like, I'll be back. I think they were about to do stuff together actually. Because I think at that point there's a time to where they do rekindle and they have moments of like where they make love and things like that throughout the time that they're there. And it's like crazy stuff because she's tied up and she gets turned on by all that. It's still very much like the first book or like the first fanfic, to where there's a lot of smut that comes into it. But he leaves. She doesn't realize because she's in the bathroom at that point. He leaves to go check who's at the door, and she's wondering what's taking Draco so long because she's in the bathroom. So she peeks out, he's not there, nowhere to be seen in the room. She's like, what the heck's happening? Then she hears there's people talking in the study, and then she's like, wait, oh my god, that's Draco's talking to somebody. And she kind of peeks through the door and she sees it's Lucius, and they're arguing. And as they're arguing, I think Lucius punches Draco. It's like something that they're talking about that just gets heated, and he punches him and he's on the floor, and Hermione reacts. So that's when Lucius sees her, and he's like, what the hell? So he's like, you haven't had her hidden here this whole time, a mud, blah, 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 all that sort of stuff. So he gets pissed. I think they end up escaping from there. I can't remember. I'm like, I just read this, but I'm already on my next fanfic, and I'm like 60% into that fanfic already, so I'm like getting confused. Draco does end up going with Hermione with the order, because Hermione ends up, I don't know. But Draco does end up going with her to, I think it's Tonks's house, or if it's not Tonks, it's Andromeda's, one of those. But that ends up, no, I'm lying, it's Fleur Delacour and Bill Weasley, yeah, because they're the ones that are married, I think, right? I don't know. But they go to their house. That's like where they're kind of hiding out there, like the order part of it anyway, because it's Harry's there, Ron's there. And when Hermione gets there, she convinces them that obviously Draco is on their side. But obviously Draco is not really on their side. He's on Hermione's side. That's just what it is. He's kind of like, I don't pick a side. I'm here because you want me here, and we escaped from what could have been happening over there. He still feels like obviously it would have been better just to keep her hiding, but she's like, look, we need to just try this out. He does end up helping them and telling them stuff, because Hermione just keeps telling him like, look, you need help. Just tell them what they need to know, please, blah, blah. He does end up telling them stuff. It helps him out. Eventually he finds out that his mom I think her life was threatened, and it got him nervous, and he didn't know what happened to her. I think he ended up finding out that Lucius died, or Lucius, I don't know, I can't remember. But one thing that was interesting, I think that we found out in this one, that the Death Eaters don't truly die. Voldemort cursed them to where if they die, they still can rise up, and they rise up as Inferi. What is their names? Those freaking zombie things. They rise up as like the Inferi thing you see from like Hogwarts Legacy. That's basically what happened with Lucius. He ends up becoming one of those. So he ends up leaving, and Hermione's like, what's happening? And he's like, I have to go. And they separate again. And she's freaking out because he's gone for like the whole entire day. No word, not knowing what's happening. And then of course they get skeptical because they're like, he can't come back here. Like, he's a Death Eater and now he's going back over there. He could be just like planning something and then bringing people over here. And she's like, he wouldn't do that. So the trust there is kind of iffy. It's more from Ron than anything. He doesn't end up coming back, and he comes back drunk, wasted. This situation happens between the two in the kitchen, with Hermione and him. And she usually likes when he's kind of rougher with her, but this just felt different. It's like he wasn't there, and it just felt like just not what she wanted. And she kind of felt like she had to do that for him, but in the process, it was not making her feel good. So she ends up stopping it. He really kind of comes down and realizes what he was doing, and then he feels bad and he opens up to her about what happened. And yeah, from there I think they end up going to finally like go to the school, I think, and that's where everything happens with the battle. During this time in the battle at the school, there's a big major character death. If you don't want to know, but I'm going to say it anyways now, so just stop listening if you don't want to hear it. But the big major death is Harry. Harry does end up dying. Hermione freaks out, and then Draco's trying to just calm her down. I think they separate a little bit too while they're at the battle. I can't remember because they end up separating again. And then he finds her and he tried, oh yeah, because when they got to Hogwarts, I think he tried to take her so they could leave. It ended up not working out. I think she ended up somehow getting away. But one thing that was interesting with this one was the one who eventually actually ended up killing Voldemort. Well, okay, so we know how Neville kills the snake. So this time Draco actually kills the snake. Who actually kills Voldemort after that is Neville. He, I think, he grabs the Gryffindor sword, runs over to him because at his weakened state, slices off his head. I was like, oh, that's interesting. I was like, that's... After that, everything that Draco sacrificed and did to help the Order, all at the end just didn't matter. As everything happened and they started capturing the Death Eaters after Voldemort was killed. And during this time, Hermione actually ended up taking the dark mark off of Draco. She used Fenfear, I think, and burned it off, and it was very, very painful all in his arm. Like, so, like, he had all these, his muscles were all exposed. That's how deep she got in there, and she was able to take it off. When it was over, immediately Aurors showed up and captured Draco. And during this time, Hermione's by Harry's dead body, I think, so she's kind of farther away from him, so she doesn't realize what's happening until she hears him calling her name. She turns around and sees that they're grabbing him, and she's like, no, what are you doing? He helped. He's fighting back, and being Draco like he is, toxic Draco, he's just giving them what they want and just like growling and yelling at them and all that stuff and cursing them out, whatever. So they capture him, they take him to Azkaban. Or no, they take him to the ministry. When he's there, I think they end up interviewing him and stuff, and he ends up saying things that they want to hear. That's basically what it is. Like, he doesn't tell them things to fight because he knows there's no point. No matter anything he says, it's gonna be a lie to them, and it doesn't matter. So he feeds them what they want, and he just tells them, yeah, I murdered these people, whatever. I did it, I'll do it again, and just everything. And Hermione is just like upset when she finds this out because he's ruining everything. Instead of fighting for them, he's just giving up in her eyes, and he ends up right away being sentenced to go to Azkaban. They weren't going to have a trial for none of the Death Eaters because of what they did. She was able to talk to Kingsley and convince him to open up a trial for him. They ended up doing the trial, but during the trial, Draco was not cooperating and he fucked everything up. And he was sentenced to Azkaban for the rest of his life. And she doesn't know how to handle it. He, as they're dragging him away, he's like, just wait for me. I'll come back to you. And she just feels like he's made so many promises before that what makes this not be one that he'll break again. Like, and she's upset. She doesn't know how she's gonna live her life without him. That's her true love. There's no way. So she tries to fight for him while he's sitting there giving up. And they try to give him a fair, like, you know, I guess for him to plead his case. And when they gave him the stand, he just said all these horrible things that they just already were thinking no matter what anyways. He was just telling them through his mouth and saying, I murdered these people, I did this and I would do it again, like, all this different things. Her jaw just dropped to the floor. Like, how can you do this? What are you doing? And they take him away, they go to Azkaban. On her end, she's trying to figure out how to still fight for him to get him out. Like, there's no way that she can live her life where he's not around. He tries to figure out ways to get out. He tries to break the bars. Of course, all these different things, it's impossible. And as he's in the cell, he realizes that his mind starts playing tricks on him. He starts seeing Hermione. He could tell it's not really Hermione because Hermione has, like, I think white eyes or something, and she's like all gray in color. Nothing warm from her. There's no familiar smell from her, so he knows. And she says things to him to egg him on, get into his head to where he ends up hurting himself. And he listens to her because he has no hope. And he's just stuck in this cycle of depressive state in Azkaban where he just only gets 1 cup of water a day with 1 meal that they just come, and that's it. And he's stuck in there with just 1 little window, nothing, not even let out for nothing. So all he has is her. And he knows it's not her, but he gives in, and she tells him to do things and he does them. Like, abusing his own self. It could be just like hitting his face like multiple times, punching and things like that. Like he'll just do it because she's telling him to. It really just gets into his head. Meanwhile, we end up finding out, actually, I forgot to mention, this is a big part too, that Hermione actually is in charge of the Elder Wand. She's the holder of the Elder Wand. After the war, they end up taking the Elder Wand to the Ministry, so she doesn't actually have it with her, but she is the rightful owner. That sparks something in her. She's like, there's no other way I can get him out, and it's been months, and she's tired of this, and she tries to figure out what way that she can try and steal the Elder Wand and get him out, just break him out, and they can escape. And his mom, when that whole situation happened with his mom and his dad dying, his dad took her, Lucius took her and hid her somewhere. Nobody knew where. They kind of found out, I guess later on, that, oh, he took her to the island, their private island that they have. But the thing is, Draco knows where the private island is, but Lucius moved the island in order for nobody to find her, to keep her safe. So that's what he ended up doing with Narcissa. Lucius took Narcissa and hid her. That way Voldemort wouldn't get to her and kill her. So nobody knows where she is. So back to her trying to get the Elder Wand. Her idea was to get the Elder Wand and take Draco out and go to this island. Try and find it. They do end up finding it. She goes through crazy stuff just to be able to figure out how to find this island. It involves Lucius. It involves really gory blood, things like that to get to it. But she does end up finding out where it is, and she actually gets the Elder Wand from the help with Ron. Ron actually ends up helping her, surprisingly. But he does help her to obliviate him, because that way, because he's an Auror at this time. He was guarding that area where the Elder Wand was. And he was just like, I want to see you happy. Even though I don't agree with it, I want to see you happy, and I don't want you to see you upset. So that was a redeeming thing for him. So they did redeem Ron with that sense, because, he was getting kind of annoying because the way he was acting with her. But she did obliviate him. She took the Elder Wand, and that's when she went. And she ended up going to Azkaban on the Sirius's bike. She just flew over there, broke in, found Draco nearly dying in his cell. Like, he was at the brink of like death. When she saw him, he was on the floor, and his spirit was like right here hovering above him, because there was a Dementor kissing. Because to come to find out, the Dementor was the Hermione that he kept seeing in the cell. I was like, oh, okay, I can see that. That makes sense. So I like that. So the whole time that they're battling, that he was having these situations happen to him, it was a Dementor coming to his cell and pretending to be Hermione and getting in his head and just making him depressed, just, ripping his soul from his body. And she got there just in time, was able to rescue him, take him to that island. She comes across Narcissa there, and Narcissa helps her to nurse him back to health. He's in a coma for a while. Narcissa ends up going back to London because they tell her that, because Hermione tells her that Voldemort's dead, things like that. So she goes over there. She ends up helping them by sending supplies by flue to them every time. So that way she can help Draco, and they can be hiding there. That way they won't capture them. And they're there for I think 5 years. He does end up eventually getting out of this coma. When that happened, he wasn't right away ready. He wasn't sane. He thought she was still the Hermione from Azkaban. And he didn't trust her. So she's in a predicament now that he's treating her like shit, and he's saying things to her like if she wasn't the actual Hermione. Finally, he ends up believing her, I think, because she does certain things, because he watches her. He tries to study her. He's like, you look more like her now, but I don't trust you. He notices she smells like her, and he thinks it's tricking him. And eventually he does end up believing her, and finally they come back together. Finally, after 5 years of being there, they have a happy life together there. It's nice that they, eventually go back to London. Neville is actually the Minister of Magic now. It was a downfall for everybody. So Kingsley was actually kicked off of being the Minister of Magic. I think somebody else took over at one point, and but one of Ron's brothers became the minister. But then it was they were doing things that was just not okay, sneaky things. So then they took that down, and finally Neville became the Minister of Magic. And since Neville became Minister of Magic, that's when they ended up finding out about Hermione and Draco escaping and being hiding out for so long. They invited them back. When they came back, they came to Malfoy Manor. Everybody was there to welcome them. Ron was there. Ginny, Luna, and Neville, all of them were there, and they were welcoming them back. And it felt good for them that they can actually finally live their life. But the thing was, for Draco, Neville had to still sentence him for something. So he sentenced him for house arrest. So he needed to stay at Malfoy Manor for the rest of his days. And so instead of being in Azkaban, at least he got that. But there is little side conversations in there that he talks to Draco. He's like, you know, I know you're not really gonna listen to this, but just lay low. If you're gonna leave, just be smart about it. Just use the flu, things like that. Just don't be out and about to where people know whatever. I don't know. So it's like, okay, it makes sense the way they ended it, to where they still have their life that they can live and still be happy, and he's not stuck like somewhere. He just legally can't be going out and about, but he still will. And he does end up proposing to her, which is really pretty too. It's like, oh. He proposes to her, I think in the greenhouse. This was a very good read, and I'm glad that making these TikToks can bring me to more of these Dramione fanfics that I haven't heard of, because that's how these two came about from just one TikTok. From then on, I've gone down this, I guess. This has been like probably the first smuttier type of Dramione fanfic I've read. I did read Damaged Goods, and that was kind of had its, you know, but it had still, I feel like, more of a plot. This one definitely had way more. It had definitely a plot, but a lot more of smutty schemes for sure. So my next read is finally gonna be Meet Me in Dreamland. This has been on my list for so long, and I'm like, since I'm already on this wave of reading these kind of spicier fanfics, I might as well. And so far, I'm 60% into this one already. Like, I'm almost done, and I love it. It is so good. It's shook the spot. I thought this was very smutty. No. Meet Me in Dreamland has beat that for sure, but it's very entertaining. Like, there's funny parts, and anyway, I'm gonna make a whole video about that. But currently that's the one I'm reading, and let me know if you have read On the Nature of Daylight and This Bitter Earth, if you liked them, if you are planning on reading them. And yeah, I love Toxic Draco, really do. So if there's any actual fanfics that kind of remind you of these two, let me know, and I can add that to my TBR too, because I love a Toxic Draco. Possessive, toxic, you know, jealous Draco. I'm all about that. Anything Draco, honestly. But that was very entertaining. But I will see you in the next video, and thank you guys for watching. Bye.